So today we cancel a woman named Alice Evans, who, according to her bio, is a lecturer at King's College London, a faculty associate at Harvard, and an author who writes about issues related to gender equality and the patriarchy. That's probably more information than you ever needed to know about somebody called Alice Evans, but you never know what you'll learn on this show. So the reason we're talking about her today is that she recently wrote a blog post, which she shared on Twitter, titled "Smash the Fraternity." And in the post, she complains that men have an advantage in the corporate world because of the fraternal bonds formed through sports banter, she says, smoke breaks, and in the men's restroom. Now, if you're a man hearing this already, you're probably confused because you probably don't take smoke breaks and you've never held a conversation with another person in any restroom in your life. And I'm just as confounded as you, but we'll get back to that in a moment. First, let's hear from Alice. Let's let her make her case. She says, quote, "Male bosses in male-dominated workplaces consistently fail to recognize and elevate female talent. Rewards and promotions go to those who put in long hours. Men can take advantage of this system because they're emancipated by women who continue to shoulder the burden of social reproduction at home. Thus, the contemporary system of employment is predicated on the domestic gender division of labor. Entrenching their first mover advantage, the male nomenclature tends to disregard women's expertise and resist family-friendly reforms. So if you really want to level the playing field, it's time to smash the fraternity." By the way, the word fraternity doesn't just refer to a group of drunken hooligans doing keg stands, right? Fraternity also means friendship, bonds, mutual support, and respect. What feminist Alice wants to do is smash male friendship. She's noticed that men can get along with each other, can develop bonds of respect, and she wants to destroy that. This comes as no surprise, of course. Feminists have always been driven almost exclusively by their desire, their jealousy of men, and their desire to become men. And the thing that constantly reminds them of the fact that they aren't men is that they're unable to bond with men the same way that men do with each other, which means that those bonds are the things that they hate the most. That's why you should never marry a feminist or date a feminist or spend more than 45 seconds in a room with a feminist. She'll make your life miserable in many ways you can't even imagine. But this will be a big point of contention. She will not want you to have male friends. She will resent your ability to get along with other men, given that she cannot get along with other men or other women, for that matter, or anybody. Back to Alice. She says, "Patriarchy has persisted for thousands of years. Yada, 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 etc. Skipping ahead. Male bonding is part of the story, building trust and respect. Homosocial schmoozing, talking about sports and sharing smoke breaks." So if you ever talk about sports with another man, just so you know, you're engaging in homosocial schmoozing. Just never call it that when you're talking to the other guy. Hey, you want to do a little homosocial schmoozing? No? Anyway, that accounts for over a third of the gender pay gap at one Asian bank. Likewise, in U.S. big oil, where women comprise 38% of entry-level posts, but only 10% of executives. Now, she continues to complain along these lines, listing all of the areas where men are able to socialize while excluding women. She's especially concerned with male fraternizing in the restroom. And she includes this cartoon I'll show you of a woman looking on dejected as a group of backslapping men head into the men's room together with a sign that says corporate boardroom on the door. Alice also shared a message she received, allegedly from a man, going into more detail about all of the gabbing and bonding that we boys do in the bathroom, supposedly. Here's the message from her friend. It says, "With all your thinking about gender and management, I wanted to share this little anecdote. I used to work at a large organization. I happened to work on the same floor as the organization's vice president, who was also a man. Sometimes I'd run into him in the bathroom, and while we were both using urinals, he'd tell me some new idea he had and often ask me to take some action on it. At some point, to avoid getting new work, I started using the bathroom on another floor. But it definitely suggested to me that with male managers, male employees get more casual contact and potentially more assignments with opportunities to succeed, even in something as simple as running into them in the restroom." Okay. Let's just get one thing out of the way up front, all right? Ladies, take it from me. As a man who has been a man almost my entire life, literally 85% of my life I've been a man. And I've used hundreds of restrooms all across these fruited plains. The situation described here is as imaginary as Alice's friend. It does not happen. You do not need to worry about it. Men are not bonding in restrooms. We don't even speak in restrooms unless it's absolutely necessary, which it never is. We don't rest in restrooms. We don't take baths in bathrooms either, for that matter. We are business oriented in that environment. We go in, we take care of our business, and we leave. We don't discuss that business with anybody. We don't discuss any other business while conducting that business. Male restrooms are quiet places, except for the sounds of dribbling and kerplunking, which echo through our chambers. Otherwise, we remain silent and we give each other space. It's an unwritten rule, which all men know, that when confronted with an empty line of urinals, a man must pick one on either end, never one in the middle, never one in the middle. The man who comes in next will pick one as far from the first man as he can. The next will again maintain that distance as much as he can. You never choose a urinal directly next to another man. Never. Unless it's an emergency. And it better be a real emergency. And you better be on the verge of your bladder rupturing. And even then, a decent man would allow his bladder to rupture in a dignified way. A dignified rupture, rather than choose to pee 6 inches from another guy. These are the rules. They're set in stone. Maybe not literal stone, but in our hearts, in our souls. We as men are born with this knowledge. It's our destiny to follow these guidelines. We all know it. This may be more information than you ladies need, but I'm trying to explain that men's restrooms are not women's rooms. Despite the confusion our culture has on this topic, that's not the case. Alice seems to think that because women will take a day trip to their local restroom and hang out there for 14 hours, pampering themselves, talking and doing God knows what, that men must have the same approach. We don't. You'll notice that men never go in groups to the bathroom like women do. We'll never see a man stand up at a restaurant and say, hey, I got to take a leak. Hey, Bill, you want to come with? In fact, if Bill does also have to go to the restroom, he'll wait for the other guy to come back and go and leave and come back before he goes. Or else he'll say, oh, you're going to the bathroom too? Oh, well, I had to go also. You know what? I'll just get in my car and drive to Omaha and use a bathroom there. So you go ahead. Because men can never be far enough away from each other in bathrooms. That's the point. Now, there are some men who violate these rules, the men who treat urinals like water coolers. Not literally. Maybe they do actually drink from the urinal. Who knows, the freaks. But they'll try to spark a small talk exchange. There are men who do this, a few. Believe it or not, there are some men who will relieve themselves in a urinal right next to you, even when there are other open ones available. We normal men always assume that those guys are weirdos and deviants, and we judge them and we hate them and are justified in feeling that way. They're the exception. The rule is as I have described. Now, I may be making too much out of this, but I think what we find in this bathroom issue is a microcosm, a symbol of feminism's great flaw. One of its great flaws, anyway. And that is that feminists don't know the first thing about men. They don't understand us at all. They have no understanding of who men are, how we act, why we act the way we are. We're not even that mysterious. It's just that they're that stupid. As far as men having more success in the corporate world, it's certainly not due to any kind of institutional bias in favor of men. All of the institutional bias, all of it, without a doubt, cuts against men, especially white men. But if we still have greater success, some of that might have to do with the inherent masculine skill sets that men tend to possess. I understand this is heresy. I mean, all true things are heresy in a culture of lies. But men and women have different skills and they excel at different things. Men, generally speaking, may tend to be better suited and more cut out for some of these jobs. And some of that has to do with different priorities also. For all the talk about gender pay gaps and everything, the gap, if it exists at all, exists because women tend to make different choices. They choose different career paths. They take different routes in life, and that's fine. That's good. That's called diversity. One other point. If men are better able to get along, work as a team, relate to each other, outside of the restroom, I mean, that's not some kind of unfair advantage. It's an advantage, yeah, but it's not unfair. We earn that advantage by being direct with each other, by not taking things too personally, by not getting overly focused on personal slights, not getting involved in personal feuds and so on. Women can tend a little more towards the dramatic, as evidenced by Alice seeing men walking into the restroom and imagining that they're hatching some kind of Game of Thrones conspiracy while they stand at the urinals. The slightly more stoic, emotionally removed, and coolly practical approach of a man often works well in business. It can sometimes cause tension and strain in relationships, though, and at home, which is why a man needs a woman to help him become more empathetic, more caring, more relational. There's no problem with this dynamic, unless you decide to make it a problem. And Alice is the kind of woman who likes to make problems. But business is about solving problems, not making them, which is why she's a college professor, not a CEO. And it's also why she is today canceled. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.